The latest exhibition in the Chained Library and Mappa Mundi exhibition space of Hereford Cathedral is Master of the Library. It looks at some of the people who have occupied that role for over 400 years, both the masters themselves and the librarians who have supported them. The title Master of the Library has been given since 1583 to the member of cathedral clergy, either male or female, who has overall care and responsibility for the chained library of Hereford Cathedral.
Elizabeth, what are we looking at?
This amazing 15-foot long document. I've checked, it takes over 10 minutes to read it in full. This is a list of the contents of Thornton's houses at the time of his death. So he died in 1629. At that point, his main house was in Ledbury, because he was by then the master of St Catherine's Almshouses in Ledbury. But he also had properties in Hereford and in Worcester, because he also had roles in those places. So this entire document lists all the contents of his houses.
Makes you wonder how long ours would be if we had one for us. So we picked out a few points of particular interest. My favourite, probably slightly concerning as a clergyman, my favourite is his arms. Not literally arms, but his weaponry that he had. Tell us about that.
That's right. So that's this section here, headed arms, and he basically owns a selection of weapons. So they are a caliver, a fowling piece.
So a caliver? Yeah. What's a caliver?
A caliver is a light musket, apparently.
A light musket?
Yes. So
is that something all masters of the library get?
Sadly, I don't think that still comes with the title.
Well, that's very disappointing.
He also has a halberd, which is a pike, one of those long with an axe head also on it. A fowling piece he owns, which is a form of shotgun, and he also has a petronel, and that's a black powder firearm. So when you're thinking that 1629, we're heading towards the period of the Civil War, so it's the sort of weaponry that would be used at that time.
But it seems unusual for clergymen to have one weapon, let alone so many. Why do we think he would have been so armed to the teeth?
My thinking is he's travelling a lot between Ledbury, Oxford, Hereford, Worcester. It's not necessarily a very safe time. We are moving towards, as I said already, the period of Civil War. There's unrest already.
Highwaymen abound.
So actually, if you're travelling in a coach or on a horse, you would perhaps need some weaponry to make sure that you were safe, that you were protected. I imagine perhaps if we found other clergymen's inventories of a similar period, they would perhaps also have the same level of protection, self-protection.
I wonder what weaponry is currently stored in the current canon's possessions. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And just to give us a snapshot of the era that he was in, as well as just the man. So from the I don't know, the sublime to the ridiculous, but from the arms to his, one almost has a fetish for napkins.
I do worry about the number of napkins he has. So that's in this section here, within the household stuff, it's called. So this is in his Ledbury house. In his Ledbury house, the linenware that he has includes 1 dozen of napkins, plus an odd napkin, 150 pair of sheets, 39 tablecloths, and 40 towels.
Gosh.
And that's only in his Ledbury house. He has more in his Hereford house, which makes the total of napkins, I feel like there should be a drum roll, the total of napkins, 302 napkins, 67 pairs of sheets, 52 tablecloths, and 62 towels. I have wondered if he was running a B&B on the side.
Yes, I mean, one speculates if he was doing a lot of hospitality, a lot of entertaining, but how many people? I suppose there was a sense, my understanding is that things like linens and napkins was a symbol of status as well, and they were quite prized possessions, so one wonders if he was a collector, perhaps.
I think it is that. Nobody can get through that many napkins in the course of a week's meals, can they? So I think you're right. I think it's linen stored as part of his status.
Interesting.
And and his wider family. So his wife and the others that lived in his household. Yeah.
Fascinating. So Elizabeth, when I go to lunch, I might stick something in the microwave or stick something in the oven or open a can of tuna, but it sounds like with Thornton he had a very specific way of making dinner.
That's right. So this is in the Hereford property. We also find listed in the kitchenware, at the very end here you have and wheel for a dog to turn a spit on. So turning a spit was the method where you cooked your meat, had the spit on it so that you kept it rotating so that it cooked evenly, but you did need somebody or something.
So a dog was turning the spit rather than a dog on the spit.
That's right. So the dog was on a wheel, like a hamster wheel, but bigger, walking round. And as the dog walked, the wheel turned, which turned the spit that kept his meat nice and tender on all sides, cooking evenly. So we also have a letter from Thornton written just as Lent was about to start, where he's inviting a colleague to come and share a fritter with him.
A fritter?
That's right. So it's literally a Shrovetide fritter. So
a pancake.
What we would call a pancake.
How interesting.
So he obviously had a penchant for pancakes as well as for whatever meat he had turning on his spit.
Maybe he could use all his napkins to wipe up all the mess.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth, having this amazing inventory that tells us so much about Thornton, what would be your main takeaway and what would you want people to know about Thornton, having seen this snapshot of his life and his possessions?
I think his dedication actually to the different roles that he occupied. He took the role as Master of the Library really seriously. Having had the role a couple of times, the third time I think it was that he occupied that role, he really threw himself into making these huge improvements by creating the new style of book presses. And he was keen to chase up people who owed money to the library. You were supposed to pay a sort of a subscription when you were installed as a prebendary. And he wanted to make sure that the library was getting everything it was owed so that he could fulfill its potential as best he could. And it seems that he did similarly with the role as Master of the Almshouses at Ledbury. He went to that role in his 70s, but he didn't seem to sort of just retire gracefully. He also threw himself into it. And I think the fact that he had all these houses in different places is because he was working hard in each place and then would need somewhere comfortable to come back to at the end of each day.
What an amazing legacy. Thank you.